Great Escape is a Six Flags theme park located in Queensbury, New York, just north of Albany. It's actually only one of 3 Six Flags parks that does not go by that Six Flags name, along with La Ronde and Frontier City. This is a full family resort. There's literally a lodge right next door that has an indoor water park. You could walk there from the theme park if you wanted. And the place originally opened as Storyland USA. It was named that because of this walkthrough that they had, and to this day that is still there. And it is super cute, very retro, and very unexpected to me. I did not know much going into this park, but I will say it was very pleasantly surprising. Great Escape is a lot nicer than I was expecting. In a way, it reminded me of Enchanted Forest out in Oregon. Not necessarily in terms of atmosphere, but more in how they tie in different classic fairy tales. You'll find numerous small houses and buildings spread throughout the park, and they're fully interactive. Like, you can just walk in these things. And you gotta imagine it is perfect for kids. You can tell that this park caters well to families. So if you're like me and you were judging this park purely based off of their roller coaster collection, and you automatically assumed that this is the worst Six Flags park, it's not even close, let me tell you, you should pay a visit here and you too will be pleasantly surprised. Because the roller coasters are definitely not the standout feature of this park. If you are judging Great Escape purely based off the roller coasters, unfortunately, I do think you'll be disappointed because there's not a lot here that's all that great. They only have 6 roller coasters, and of those 6, 4 of them are relocations. The only 2 that aren't are a Vekoma Boomerang and a small kiddie coaster called Frankie's Mine Train. And that mine train was the last roller coaster that Great Escape added, and that was in 2005. So this park is long overdue. But let's kind of talk about some of the specific attractions that you'll find here. And I'll start with the 4 relocated roller coasters. The first one is the ride that you'll see right at the front entrance, and that is Steamin' Demon. And what a steamin' pile of trash this ride is. This might be the worst Arrow in America. It is relocated from a park that closed down in Louisiana. It is a very rough and uncomfortable attraction. It is a roller coaster that, yeah, okay, if you're a coaster enthusiast, go get your credit, whatever. But if you want a smooth, comfortable experience, this is not the ride for you. And I would love to see it removed, but only after they replace it with something better. Next up, we have Canyon Blaster. This originally opened at Opryland in Tennessee, another park that has since closed down. And it's actually a decently well-themed ride. As you're going around the course, you'll see lots of different props, very Western-like. But the thing that stood out to me the most was the way the park painted it. And this is actually hilarious. They only painted the section of the roller coaster that went right next to the pathway. So as you're walking up to the attraction, you're like, wow, that ride looks great. Look at this helix right here. It's this bright red color, looks awesome. And then you ride it, and the rest of the ride is this ugly faded color. And then when you get to the helix that's painted, it is only the half of the helix that is up against the pathway. So you'll be going along and it's, oh, bright red, faded. Bright red, faded. It is the epitome of doing the bare minimum and calling it good. So I'm sorry, Six Flags, but you got to do something about that. It is not great. Next up is Alpine Bobsled, and let me just say, it was just great to see another bobsled coaster operating, and I've heard that this one is closed a lot, so I'm really glad we caught it when we did. This ride originally opened at Six Flags Great Adventure. It was called Sarajevo Bobsled, and then it was moved to Six Flags Great America, where it was called Rolling Thunder, so this is actually the 3rd location for it. If you've done Lava Bore at Six Flags Over Texas, it's pretty much the same thing. The main difference is in the seating setup. This one is 2 side by side, while that one is single file. I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable ride, though. Definitely some of those transitions can be a bit jarring, but it's still cool to see since these are rather rare attractions. And then finally, we have Comet, and this is definitely the star of the show here. This ride was relocated from Crystal Beach. That was a park that closed in Canada, and this opened at Great Escape 5 years later. So it's been at Great Escape for over 20 years now, and this is a wooden coaster that is very well taken care of. I was definitely surprised. It has a similar sort of style to the classic Coney Island Cyclone layout, maybe a bit more spread out, but there's some nice airtime moments. It was fairly smooth. I believe it was just retracked a couple of years ago, so it was running great. Definitely give this multiple rides. But that being said, it is definitely time that they get a big new investment. They have gotten some decent attractions over the past couple of years in terms of flat rides. The most recent addition is Adirondack Outlaw, which they put it right towards when you're driving up to this place. And because it's so tall, visually this is a great addition. They also have Pandemonium, which is a chance flat ride, and then Extreme Supernova, that's sort of your frisbee. Definitely kind of a scaled down model though. Great Escape is also home to a fun little S&S drop tower called Sasquatch. This is a great looking ride. I love how they painted it. Like many of the roller coasters though, this too is a relocation. This one actually came from Six Flags New Orleans after it was destroyed by Hurricane Katrina. Great Escape has a cool scrambler called Blizzard. If you've been to Funtown Splashtown, USA up in Maine, it's the same idea where they put a scrambler in the dark, turned out the lights, add some cool effects, some dancing lights, music, turns a boring old scrambler into an actually really exciting attraction. I know Six Flags Great America does something similar with their teacups during Fright Fest. And then the last ride that I'll really mention, and unfortunately this is one we did not get the chance to do. We actually tried to, but it closed right before we got there, and that is the Log Flume. Another one of those rides that's one of the first things you see when you're driving up here. It's adjacent to Steam and Demon. I've heard it also has some really nice theming, so I wish I would have gotten the chance to get on it, but oh well. Gives an excuse to come back, I guess. In terms of food, I would say that is almost the biggest downside about this park besides their lackluster roller coaster collection. It's fairly basic food options, pretty stereotypical across the Six Flags chain. The pizza here is pretty standard. We had some garlic knots that were rock hard. I swear you could knock someone out with them. They might as well have been rocks. And we just ordered those from this main indoor dining hall that's in the center of the park. So yeah, I do not recommend those. But you know, aside from all that, I really think Great Escape's strong suit is in atmosphere. This is a very charming park, and I really think it's great for kids. It's fairly unique to the area. I don't think it's a place that you really need to make a ton of repeat visits to. And likewise, I don't think it's a park that you necessarily need a ton of time at. If you're a thrill seeker, you're probably good with like half a day. If you're bringing the whole family, you could probably make a full day out of it. They certainly have some classic attractions. There's a sky ride going across the park. Right up front is a carousel. And it is a nice looking park. The atmosphere is very different than your average Six Flags park. So, is Great Escape the worst Six Flags park in the chain? I would say in terms of roller coaster collection, yes. But in terms of atmosphere, definitely not. Which is why this is a place that I actually recommend visiting. I just wish that Six Flags would pour more money in here. I really think they deserve it. With just a couple more additions, I think this would be a mid-tier Six Flags park. And I don't even think they'd have to be crazy expensive additions. There's some relatively compact, affordable roller coaster models that you could add that would make the world of a difference here. An RMC Raptor would be perfect, or even like an SNSL Loco. Either one of those would be awesome. That would give them that standout steel coaster that they need. And I would also say that they need a launch coaster, something that'd be different from the other rides in the park. You could even go with like a Skyrocket 2, or maybe the new Zamperla Double Heart. Either one of those would be awesome. And then I think at that point you'd be good to remove Steam and Demon. But until then, unfortunately, that's one of the only roller coasters that they have here. So if you took that out without adding anything new, it'd be a huge loss. Then the other addition I think would be really nice here is a Starflyer. So who knows? We're coming up on almost 20 years without a new roller coaster. So I'm not going to hold my breath on any of that happening. But fingers crossed, maybe one day. I certainly think the park deserves it. They have a very fun atmosphere, a decent sized water park, and even roller coaster collection aside, I would recommend visiting here. But because they're lacking in thrills department, I wouldn't recommend visiting more than once unless you're like a local. I know it is kind of far out there. I think that's why it took me so long to finally get here. So I am glad that I visited, but until they add something substantial, I do think it will be quite a long time till I return back here. But those are just my thoughts on Great Escape in New York. Let me know down in the comments below if you've been here. What do you think of this park? If you agree with the points I've made. If you're new to the channel, I'd love if you could subscribe. We do amusement park reviews from places all across the world. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.